I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's super difficult to eat Mexican food outside of the house and be completely satisfied with it. And I'm gonna blame my mom for this one. She's an excellent cook, and I can't help but compare restaurant/fast food to the really good stuff that she makes. You could really taste the love and care. And I know what you're gonna say. How could you even compare your mom's cooking to whatever crap Taco Bell or Chipotle is making? And I'd reply to you, is Taco Bell or Chipotle even Mexican food? What is Mexican food? I think it's about time we found out. The amazing civilizations that lived in Mexican territory, including what is now modern Mexico, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, Colorado, Nevada, part of California, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Belize, were the Olmec, Toltec, Teotihuacan, Aztec, Zapotec, Mixtec, Maya, among so many others. Even though they were diverse people who lived over a massive area of land, they all ate kind of sort of pretty much the same things. For the purposes of streamlining this video, and because the tribe that had the most effect on Mexican food as we know it today were the Aztecs, we're gonna focus on the Aztecs. In a future video, I might do a deep dive into one of the hundreds of other tribes, but today we're talking about the tribe that dominated almost every single other tribe in Mexico, the Aztecs. In order to do a proper deep dive into Mexican food, we have to start off with the backbone of the cuisine that keeps going strong to this day, corn, aka maíz. What? Corn's not in season right now. That's all I got. I know in hardcore dieting circles, corn is a dirty 4-letter word and the worst thing you could put into your body. For not just Mexican food, but the entire Latin American dominion, corn is quite literally sacred. In the Aztec and Mayan tradition, maize has its own twin god and goddess. The Maya called their gods Popolva. The Aztecs called their gods Centotl, Centeotl, and Chicomecoatl, and Chicomcoatl. These two Aztec gods are the children of the goddess of sin and purity, Tlazolteotl, and the god of the rising sun, Pilzintehutl. This is embarrassing. Pilzintehutli. While I was in the planning stages of this video, I wanted to include some fun facts about these Aztec gods and how they were worshipped, but after doing some research, I am traumatized now and I don't want to talk about it. Maybe I'll talk more about the Aztec religion in the future, but for now, we're gonna focus in this video about the food. Food is good. The other stuff not so good, but food is good. Pre-oppressor, almost every single dish and drink in the Aztec diet had corn in it. Post-oppressor, almost all Mexican food includes corn in one form or another. Foods like tamales, pozole, tortillas, mole, and drinks like pulque and chocolate all had corn in them. Of course, no one could live off of maíz alone. The native Aztec diet included avocados, chiles, tomates, sweet potatoes, beans, chocolate, nopales, bugs, honey, turkeys, squashes, and dogs. Yes, dogs. They had limited options when it came to meat, but they did keep their companion dogs separate from their eating dogs. So as far as I could tell, no one was snacking on Fido. Normally, when talking about Latin American/Mexican food, it is always divided into two categories, pre-Columbian and post-Columbian, or if you want to be more accurate, pre-conquistador and post-conquistador. Aside from disease and genocide, the Spanish brought over chickens, cows, pigs, goats, lemons. Lemons? Lemons? I thought lemons were Mexican. Yo te quiero con limón y sal. Rice, sugar, and other stuff. Mexican cuisine, the original fusion food. Now we could spend the rest of this video talking about the Spanish and their contributions. I would prefer to talk a little bit about all the other countries and cultures that influenced Mexican food. Some of these maybe you've heard before, but there are some that will be quite surprising to you. Strap in. As we know, The Spanish oppressors landed in Mexico, but were not the only foreigners to impact Mexico's culture and food. We're gonna go country by country and see all the culinary contributions that were made in Mexico. Number 1, Lebanon. The most famous Lebanese contribution to Mexican food is tacos árabes, aka tacos al pastor. Based on Lebanese shawarma, tacos al pastor is pig's meat that is marinated, then stacked on a spit and grilled vertically with a pineapple at the top. If you've ever had shawarma or doner kebab or gyros and thought to yourself, wow, this reminds me a lot of tacos al pastor, now you know why. Number 2, France. After the Spanish, the French are the other largest immigrant group that landed in Mexico. The French brought us el bolillo, very similar of course to the French baguette. Also, a lot of the pan dulce we enjoy with a nice cafecito are slight variations of French sweetbread. The concha we all know and love is a version of brioche. Ever had a brioche and thought, well, this is a super pretentious concha? Now you know why. Speaking of conchas, number 3, Japan. If you look up a picture of a brioche, you'll notice it looks nothing like a concha. Where did that cool turtle shell pattern come from? The Japanese. The Japanese have a sweet bread called melon bread. It looks a lot like a concha, doesn't it? I believe the Japanese use cookie dough to make that design. Mexicans use like a sugar flour mixture to make that cool design. Those awesome Baja fish tacos are also a Japanese contribution. The Japanese introduced the idea of tempura to Mexico, and they learned it from the Portuguese. And it makes me realize how very small our world actually is. Number 4, Germany. A lot of the Mexican cheeses that we know today are made in the German tradition. The Germans are also responsible for the most important of all contributions to Mexico, beer. Even though the native Mexican people already had a proud tradition of fermented drinks like pulque, tepache, and tejuino, the tradition of polishing off a couple of cases of beer on the weekends would not exist if the Germans didn't bring over their beer making technique. Negra Modelo, Bohemia, and Dos Equis Amber are some of the examples of beers made in the German tradition. We also have Germans to thank for that norteño accordion music. So yeah, they can't all be winners. Number 5, China. I couldn't find any specific food that the Chinese brought over that was given a Mexican makeover like the other things I've already talked about, but the Chinese gave us piñatas the way that we know them today. And piñatas are filled with candy and peanuts, so that's close enough. While being elbows deep in the research for this video, I stumbled upon a bunch of really cool fun facts about Mexican food, so let's run down some of my favorites. Chiles. If you grew up with a Latin mom, you may have noticed their method of making really tasty salsa involves toasting chiles. You may also have noticed the process of toasting chiles makes your eyes burn and you end up coughing up a lung for about an hour afterward. The Aztecs also noticed this phenomena and used to burn chiles and use it as sort of mustard war gas in battle. They would also discipline their children with that chile smoke. Plus, they would train their soldiers by toughening them up with chili smoke. The ancient Aztec language is called Nahuatl, and believe it or not, this language is still spoken by about 1.7 million people in Mexico today, and also lives on through Mexican food. Words and foods like tamales, pozole, mole, chayote, cacao, cacahuate, camote, chile, elote, huitlacoche, jicama, mezquite, nopal, jalapeño, tequila, and so many more are derived from their original Nahuatl words. Here are some highlights of the most popular foods and the stories behind them. Chocolate. Chocolate comes from the Nahuatl word chocolatl. The Aztecs and Mayans would make a drink out of cacao beans, honey, chiles, and achiote. This drink was made for and consumed by the upper class people in these societies. This chocolate drink was made in a way that emulated the taste and feel of blood. It was a badass way to drink blood without having to sacrifice anyone, if there was no one around to sacrifice. Tomato. Tomato comes from the Nahuatl word tomatl. Tomatillos, or green husk tomatoes, are the tomatl. Red tomatoes were called xitomatl. I'm pretty sure that's why in Mexico you'll hear people refer to red tomatoes as jitomate because of the xitomatl. If you've always wondered that, now you know. Avocados. Avocado comes from the Nahuatl word ahuacatl, which means testicle. There's a visual. Like I broke it down for my sister one day. Guacamole is mole, which means sauce, and guaca, which means testicle. It's a testicle sauce. Delicious. But seriously, it's mole for sauce and guaca for avocado. It's an avocado sauce. Hear that, you hipsters who try to make guacamole out of pizza thing? That is both terrible and offensive. And finally, my favorite fun fact, maybe of all time. It's about pozole. Pozole in Nahuatl means hominy, and pozole was made and eaten only during huge celebrations. It was made then a lot like how it's made now, with the hominy and the meat. The preferred meat of these ancient folks? Human meat. All of these huge celebrations included human sacrifice. After the person was killed, their heart and their blood was removed, and their flesh was chopped up into pieces and thrown in with the hominy and cooked. These ancient people would eat the pozole in a religious communion ceremony. When the Spanish conquered Mexico, they outlawed cannibalism, and the human meat was replaced with pig meat. Pork is the closest in flavor and texture to that sweet, sweet human flesh. When I told my mom this fun fact, she told me not to put it in this video. She doesn't want this fact to be a thing that racist mother effers use as ammunition to be even more racist toward us. I understand her concern, but I thought this was too cool and fascinating not to include. We've gone through a brief history of the original fusion food, plus a handful of fun facts about it. But what even is Mexican food? Modern Mexican food, that is. For many modern day folks, Mexican food has 3 key components. 1, some kind of chile or hot sauce is involved. 2, it consists almost entirely of tacos and burritos. 3, and most frustratingly, it's cheap in price. Let's go through that point by point. It has some kind of chile or hot sauce involved. I know I'm not alone in this one, but I pretty much put hot sauce or chile on everything I eat. Lemon too. That doesn't mean everything I eat is Mexican food. Also, putting chiles or hot sauce on food is very popular in Asian cuisine. The Middle East has this tradition as well, so I think we could throw that one out. 2, it mostly consists of tacos and burritos. Fast food that happens to be labeled Mexican, sure. Taco Bell, Chipotle, roach coaches, dudes on the street that use the sidewalk to sharpen their knives, all specialize in tacos and burritos. But that is not all what Mexican food is. Mexican food is diverse, inclusive, and sacred with a deep and fascinating history. You can't just reduce it to tacos or burritos. It's tamales, pozole, enchiladas, cochinita pibil, sopes, caldos, chile rellenos, tortas, frijoles, and so much more. So that one's out. 3, it's cheap in price. Okay, this one's very frustrating. Why is almost all other ethnic food allowed to be exclusive and expensive? We know the traditions of Mexican food. I've walked you through some of the history, and it's incredibly sacred as well. Knowing all of this, why is Mexican food devalued so much? Well, if it's made by brown people, it's devalued a lot. If it's made by white folks, it's allowed to be 3 or 4 times the price. With some exceptions, most folks don't know, don't appreciate, or flat out don't care about the history, the tradition, the sacredness of our food. And that's because they don't value us as people. And that seeps into bigger issues than just food. It affects how cheap we get paid for our labor, how low our property values are, how the mistreatment of things like animals gets a lot of attention and activism, but the mistreatment of us gets a shrug. How we get ignored politically, and how we are not taken seriously as an economic force. Did I just make things escalate so very quickly? Yes, I did. But that's okay. Remember, in my culture, this is not an overreaction. But my point still stands. I find it fascinating that there's a disconnect in people where they love our food, don't love actual Mexican, or anyone on this Latino, Latina, Latinx spectrum. Next time you consider going to eat some Mexican fast food like Chipotle, maybe give some real authentic food a try instead. You'll be helping out hardworking people who have a couple of families to maintain and provide for. And don't feel bad for liking Taco Bell. I'm guilty of eating there too. And it's actually pretty tasty. But you're crapping all over fast food that claims to be Mexican, and you're letting Taco Bell stand? I don't think they ever claimed to be Mexican, so they're cool with me.